Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for more stories. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Nolan Reeves stared at the lines of code scrolling across his monitors, his reflection ghostly in the dim glow of multiple screens. The office stood silent except for the gentle hum of servers and his fingers flying across the keyboard. At 2:50 a.m., he was exactly where he needed to be, alone with his creation. Run Simulation Alpha 7, he commanded softly, watching as numbers flooded the screen. The algorithm processed millions of data points, predicting market movements with uncanny accuracy. 6 years of his life had led to this moment. His phone buzzed, another missed call from Tessa. He silenced it without looking, his attention fixed on the results appearing before him. The simulation showed a 98.7% accuracy rate, his highest yet. "Sir," Omar Patel's voice broke through his concentration. Nolan's most trusted developer stood in the doorway, clutching a stack of reports. "The board meeting starts in 5 hours. You should get some rest." Nolan didn't turn around. "Send the latest results to my tablet. I'll review them before the presentation." "Mr. Reeves," Omar hesitated. "Your brother, Colin, called. He said he's looking forward to seeing your presentation." Nolan's jaw tightened. Of course Colin would be there. Father's golden child never missed an opportunity to remind everyone of his presence. "Thank you, Omar. That will be all." As Omar's footsteps faded away, Nolan pulled up his email, another message from Tessa. "Dinner with your family tonight. Don't forget like last time, please. I can't keep making excuses for you." He started typing a response, but stopped. What could he say that he was busy revolutionizing financial technology, that his work would secure their future? She had heard it all before. The algorithm beeped, drawing his attention back to the screen's another successful prediction. Nolan allowed himself a small smile. Let Colin charm the board with smooth talk. Nolan had something better, he had results. Hours later, Nolan stood before the board of directors, his presentation crisp and methodical. Numbers didn't lie, and his numbers were perfect. He guided them through complex charts and graphs, watching their expressions shift from skepticism to interest. "Remarkable work, Nolan," said Denise Park, head of operations. "These accuracy rates are unprecedented." From the corner of his eye, Nolan caught Colin's smirk. His brother lounged in his chair, a perfectly tailored suit matching his carefully cultivated image of success. "Indeed, dear brother," Colin drawled. "Though I wonder if we're perhaps being too optimistic about these projections." Before Nolan could respond, their father, Edward Durham, cleared his throat. "Colin raises a valid point, Nolan. These numbers seem almost too good to be true." Nolan maintained his composure, though his fingers tightened around the presentation remote. "The algorithm has been tested extensively. I can provide detailed documentation of every trial." "Numbers on paper are one thing," Colin interjected. "Real-world application is another entirely. Remember the Langford account?" A low blow. The Langford account had been Colin's responsibility, but somehow the failure had been pinned on Nolan's overly complex trading strategies. "This is different," Nolan said, meeting his brother's gaze steadily. "The algorithm adapts and learns. It's already generating profits in controlled trials." "Enough," Edward said, raising a hand. "Nolan, proceed with implementation, but start small. Colin, oversee the rollout. Make sure everything runs smoothly." Nolan's protest died in his throat as Colin's smile widened. Of course, father would never trust him completely. He needed his precious firstborn to supervise. The meeting concluded. Nolan gathered his materials, avoiding clusters of board members congratulating themselves on their decision. He needed to get back to his office, back to his code. "Nolan," Colin's voice boomed across the conference room. "Tessa mentioned dinner tonight. You'll be there, won't you? Father's expecting everyone." Nolan turned slowly. "I have work to finish." "All work and no play, brother." Colin clapped him on the shoulder, his grip slightly too tight. "You know how father feels about family obligations." "I'll be there," Nolan said, shrugging off Colin's hand. He caught a flash of something in his brother's eye: satisfaction, anticipation. Before he could analyze it, Colin had moved on, charming a group of board members with some anecdote. Back in his office, Nolan immersed himself in code, letting the familiar patterns soothe his irritation. The algorithm was beautiful in its complexity, each line a testament to his vision. He had created something extraordinary, something that would transform the industry. Mr. Reeves. Omar appeared again, concern evident in his expression. Your wife called. She wanted to remind you about dinner. I know about dinner, Nolan snapped, then softened his tone. Sorry, Omar. It's been a long day. No apology needed, sir. Omar hesitated. If I made the algorithms running perfectly, the automated systems can handle monitoring for one evening. Nolan leaned back in his chair, studying his most loyal employee. Omar had been with him from the beginning, understanding the importance of their work. You're right. Set up remote monitoring on my phone. I'll head home to change. The drive home gave Nolan time to think. The algorithm was his masterpiece, the culmination of countless sleepless nights and sacrificed weekends. It would prove his worth to everyone, to his father, to Colin, to Tessa. He found Tessa in their bedroom, applying makeup with precise movements. She met his eyes in the mirror, but didn't turn around. You're late. I'm here, aren't I? He moved to his closet, selecting a suit. The board approved the algorithm. Congratulations, she said, her tone flat. I'm sure Colin will do a wonderful job overseeing its implementation. Nolan paused in the act of choosing a tie. You've spoken to Colin? He called to confirm dinner, Tessa said, smoothing her dress. He always calls to check on things, unlike some people. The implication hung in the air between them. Nolan chose his next words carefully. The algorithm will change everything, Tessa. Once it's fully operational, save it for the board, Nolan. She brushed past him, her perfume lingering. We're already late for dinner. Try to be present tonight, at least physically, if not mentally. They drove to his father's house in silence. Nolan's mind wandered to the algorithm, to the countless possibilities it presented. With the right application, they could dominate the market. He just needed time to prove its worth. Edward's mansion loomed before them, a testament to old money and older expectations. Colin's car already sat in the circular driveway, gleaming under perfectly positioned landscape lighting. Nolan. Colin emerged from the front door, arms spread wide in welcome. Father was starting to worry you wouldn't make it. Nolan noticed how Colin's gaze lingered on Tessa, how his brother's smile seemed to soften when addressing her. But surely that was just Colin's natural charm, the same charm that had won over the board countless times. Inside, Edward waited in his study, brandy in hand. Nolan finally decided to join the land of the living. The algorithm, Nolan began. Yes, your precious algorithm. Edward waved dismissively. Colin has been telling me his plans for implementation. Quite impressive, actually. Nolan's hands clenched at his sides. Colin's plans? I developed the algorithm. I know how best to You're the technical mind, son, Edward interrupted. But Colin understands people, markets, the bigger picture. Together, you'll make it work. Assuming you can spare time from your computer to actually work with your brother. Before Nolan could respond, Colin appeared with Tessa, both laughing at some shared joke. Father, you won't believe what Tessa just told me about her charity work. She's brilliant at organization. Nolan watched his father's expression soften, approval radiating from every pore. Of course, Colin knew exactly how to play to their father's expectations. The family dinner proceeded with excruciating slowness. Colin dominated the conversation, skillfully weaving between business success stories and personal anecdotes. Nolan noticed how often his brother's stories included Tessa, how frequently they exchanged glances. Nolan, Colin said suddenly, you've been quiet. Surely you can tear yourself away from mental calculations long enough to join the conversation? I prefer action to endless talk, Nolan replied coldly. Actions speak louder than words. Isn't that right? Colin raised his glass. To family and to new beginnings. Something in Colin's tone sent a chill down Nolan's spine. He looked at Tessa, but she was staring at her plate, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. Later that night, reviewing security footage from his office, Nolan noticed something odd. Colin had visited while Nolan was at dinner, spending several minutes at Nolan's computer. Zooming in, Nolan watched his brother insert a flash drive, downloading files. A quick check of system logs confirmed that Colin had copied the algorithm's core components. But why? The board had already approved the project. Nolan's phone buzzed with a message from Omar. Sir, you need to see this. Unauthorized access attempts detected in the offshore accounts. Pieces began falling into place. Nolan pulled up the account records, tracking the digital breadcrumbs. Someone had been probing the hidden accounts he'd established during the company's lean years accounts containing millions in untraceable funds. His office phone rang. Caleb Brooks, Tessa's best friend. Nolan, we need to talk. It's about Colin and Tessa. I think you should know they've hired investigators to look into your past. Nolan sat back in his chair, pieces clicking into place. So this was Colin's game. Steal the algorithm, discredit its creator, and claim the glory for himself and Tessa. He thought of the lingering glances, the shared laughs, the late-night phone calls. He opened his desk drawer, removing a small black notebook. Inside were contingency plans, fail-safes he'd created but hoped never to use. His brother wanted to play? Fine. Nolan would show him what real power looked like. Omar, he called out. Cancel my meetings tomorrow. We have work to do. The time for brotherhood was over. Nolan Reeves was going to war. Omar Patel sat across from Nolan in a dimly lit bar far from their usual corporate haunts. The place reeked of stale beer and broken dreams, perfect for conversations that shouldn't be overheard. You understand what you're suggesting is illegal, Omar said, voice barely above a whisper. He clutched his untouched whiskey, knuckles white against the glass. Nolan's face remained impassive. I'm suggesting survival. Colin's already moved against us. Are you with me, or do I handle this alone? Omar studied his boss, no, his friend. 6 years they'd worked together, building something revolutionary. What exactly would you need? Access. Untraceable. Nolan slid a USB drive across the table. The system has vulnerabilities, small ones. Exploitable. You want me to create back doors in our own security? Omar grabbed his drink and downed it in one gulp. They'll trace it back to us. No, they won't, Nolan said, confidence sending chills down Omar's spine. Because we'll be the ones investigating the breaches. Who better to find nothing than the people who created the nothing to find? Across town, Tessa paced in Kayla's living room, wringing her hands. I can't keep doing this, Kayla. The lies, the secret sits eating me alive. Then end it, Kayla said sharply. Tell Colin it's over. Go home to your husband. It's not that simple. Tessa collapsed onto the couch. Nolan, he's not the man I married. He's become this machine cold, calculating. He only cares about his algorithm. And Colin's better? Kayla's tone dripped skepticism. The man who's systematically hurting his own brother? Colin cares about me, Tessa whispered, though doubt crept into her voice. He sees me, really sees me. He sees an opportunity, Kayla muttered. Then, louder, Nolan needs to know before it's too late. No. Tessa grabbed Kayla's arm. Promise me you won't tell him. Promise me. Kayla eased out of Tessa's grip. I won't promise anything. Nolan deserves to know the truth. Back at the office, Nolan's plan began taking shape. Small glitches appeared in the trading system, nothing major, just enough to raise eyebrows. Documents went missing, only to reappear in the wrong departments. Emails arrived corrupted or not at all. Sir, Omar said in Nolan's doorway, tablet in hand. The first reports are coming in. Trading desk is complaining about delayed executions. Standard debugging procedure, Nolan replied without looking up. Document everything. Forward serious complaints to Colin's department. Colin's already asking questions. He wants a full security audit. Let him ask. Nolan finally looked up, a cold smile playing at his lips. In fact, encourage it. The more he investigates, the more threads he'll find to pull. The elevator dinged, and Edward Durham strode onto the floor, his presence commanding immediate attention. He made a beeline for Nolan's office, brushing past Omar without acknowledgement. A word, son. It wasn't a request. Nolan gestured to the chair across from his desk. Father, to what do I owe the pleasure? Cut the act. Edward's voice could have frozen mercury. What game are you playing? Game. Nolan's expression remained neutral. I'm implementing my algorithm as approved by the board. Don't play dumb, it doesn't suit you. Edward leaned forward. Systems don't just start failing for no reason. Not systems you built. Technology can be unpredictable, Nolan replied smoothly. Perhaps if Colin hadn't insisted on rushing the implementation watch yourself, Edward warned. Your brother knows what he's doing. He's trying to save this company from your obsessions. Nolan's laugh held no humor. Is that what he told you, that he's saving the company? Ask him about offshore accounts, father. Ask him where the money's really going. Edward's face reddened. You're walking a dangerous line, boy. Colin has proven himself time and again. You hide in your office with your computers, avoiding family, neglecting your wife. Get out. Nolan's voice could have cut diamond. Get out before I forget you're my father. Edward stood, straightening his jacket. You're your mother's son. Nolan always thinking you're smarter than everyone else. It'll be your downfall. After Edward left, Nolan sat in silence, letting rage fuel his resolve. His phone buzzed Marissa Goodwin, requesting an urgent meeting. He found her in the company gym, running on a treadmill well past normal hours. She didn't stop when he approached. She increased the speed. They're going to try to force you out, she said between breaths. Colin's been meeting with board members individually, private dinners, golf games, building support. Let them try. Nolan watched her punishing pace. Why are you telling me this? Because Colin's a snake. She hit the stop button, grabbed her towel. 4 years ago, he blacklisted my protege, brilliant kid. Caught Colin cooking the books on the Langford account. Kid lost everything. Ended up in rehab. You have proof? Colin's thorough about cleaning up his messes, Marissa said. But I remember. And I'm not the only one. Nolan nodded slowly. How would you like to help make things right? At home, Nolan found Tessa in the kitchen, a glass of wine in hand. Late meeting? Something like that. He studied his wife, noting the slight tremor in her hand as she lifted the glass. Colin sends his regards. The glass paused halfway to her lips. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Nolan poured himself a drink. Just noticed you two seemed quite close at dinner the other night. Don't dash. Tessa set her glass down hard enough to splash wine onto the counter. Don't you dare question my loyalty when you can't even be bothered to come home most nights. Loyalty, Nolan said evenly. Interesting choice of words. Before she could respond, his phone rang. Kayla. He answered, watching Tessa's face pale. Nolan. Kayla's voice shook. We need to talk. It's about Colin and Tessa. They've hired people to investigate you. They're planning something. Thank you, Kayla, Nolan said, eyes locked on his wife. I'll handle it. Tessa was trembling now. Nolan, he held up a hand, silencing her. Without another word, he walked to his home office and locked the door. His laptop showed multiple alerts. Omar warning about increased system probes, Marissa confirming board meeting dates, and most importantly a notification that someone had accessed his private server. The IP traced back to a familiar location, Colin's home office. Colin was getting sloppy, desperate. Nolan composed a message to the board, attaching carefully selected documents suggesting irregularities in Colin's department. Nothing concrete, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. Another message from Omar. Sir, Colin's downloading large amounts of data from the trading servers. Should I block access? No, Nolan typed back. Let him dig his own grave. Log everything. A soft knock at his office door. Nolan, Tessa said, voice thick with tears, please. We need to talk. He didn't respond. Instead, he pulled up the offshore records. Enough money to ruin Colin 10 times over. The question was when to strike. Another ping. A text from Kayla. Collins planning a major announcement at tomorrow's charity gala. Something about him and Tessa. So the endgame was approaching faster than expected. Fine. He was ready. Opening his black notebook, he began making calls. By morning, Colin would learn exactly who he was dealing with. Nolan Reeves didn't lose, not to traders, not to brothers, not to anyone. The next day would change everything. Let them think they had the upper hand. Nolan smiled in the darkness of his office, a predator's smile that never reached his eyes. The real game was just beginning. The charity gala buzzed with artificial laughter and clinking champagne glasses. Nolan adjusted his cufflinks, surveying the crowd from his position near the bar. Every major player in the financial world had turned out, eager to witness what Colin had promised would be an announcement to reshape the company's future. Whiskey neat, Nolan told the bartender, never taking his eyes off the entrance. His phone vibrated. A message from Omar, package delivered. Harborgate Capital is reviewing it now. Nolan allowed himself a small smile. The anonymous tip about Colin's financial irregularities would keep his brother busy. The evidence was masterfully crafted, just enough truth, carefully mixed with lies, to warrant a full investigation. Nolan. Marissa Goodwin appeared at his elbow, resplendent in a black evening gown. Colin's people are spreading rumors saying you've lost control of the algorithm, that it's generating unstable results. Let them talk. Nolan sipped his whiskey. Actions speak louder than rumors. You seem remarkably calm for someone about to be blindsided. Nolan's eyes narrowed. Who says I'm the one being blindsided? Before Marissa could respond, a hush fell over the crowd. Colin had arrived, and on his arm, Nolan's grip tightened on his glass Tessa, wearing a red dress he'd never seen before. They made quite the picture. Colin in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, Tessa glowing with nervous energy. They moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting congratulations from people who had no idea what they were congratulating them for not yet. Nolan, Colin's voice boomed across the room. Brother, come join us. This is a family moment, after all. Nolan approached slowly, cataloging every detail, the way Colin's hand rested possessively on Tessa's lower back, the tremor in Tessa's smile, the expectant hush around them. Colin, Nolan said, his voice carrying just enough warmth to pass for brotherly affection. Tessa, you look lovely tonight, dear wife. Tessa flinched at the emphasis. Ladies and gentlemen, Colin announced, raising his champagne glass. I've gathered you all here tonight for a very special dash. Nolan's phone buzzed again. He glanced down. SEC officially opening investigation. News breaks in 4 minutes. Perfect timing. But before my brother steals the spotlight, Nolan said smoothly, I have my own announcement. Colin's smile faltered. Nolan, perhaps we should dash. The company has just launched a major philanthropic initiative, Nolan continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. $50 million dedicated to supporting technological education for underprivileged youth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Edward, approaching the group, stopped short. $50 million? Colin's voice cracked slightly. Nolan, the board never approved dash. The funds come from my personal accounts. Nolan lied easily. Though I'm sure the SEC will be very interested in tracing their exact origin. Right on cue, phones buzzed throughout the room as the news broke. SEC launches investigation into Harborgate Capital. Sources allege massive fraud. Colin's face drained of color. What have you done? Me? Nolan's innocence could have convinced a jury. I'm just a humble programmer. You're the one who handles the company's finances. Tessa swayed slightly, gripping Colin's arm. Colin, what's happening? Nothing, he snapped, then forced a smile. A misunderstanding. Nolan, a word in private? No need for privacy among family, Nolan replied. In fact, since you're so eager to make announcements, why not share yours now? I'm sure everyone's dying to hear about you and Tessa. The room fell silent. Edward pushed through, face thunderous. What is he talking about? Father, I can explain. Explain what? Nolan's voice could have frozen steel. How you've been involved with my wife. How you plan to announce your engagement tonight. Please enlighten us. Gasps and whispers erupted. Tessa let out a choked sob, dropping Colin's arm and stumbling backward. You bastard, Colin snarled, lunging. Security intercepted him before he could reach Nolan. Colin Durham, a man in a dark suit, stepped forward, flashing a badge. SEC. We need you to come with us. This is ridiculous. Colin struggled. Father, tell them this is all Nolan's doing. But Edward wasn't looking at Colin. He was staring at Nolan with a mixture of horror and was that pride? You've destroyed this family, he said quietly. No, Father, Nolan said, meeting his gaze. I've saved it from itself. Nolan, please, Tessa said, tears streaming. I can explain dash, save it for the divorce lawyers. He turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the drama. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, the bar is open. As Colin was escorted out, still protesting, Nolan felt Edward's hand on his shoulder. My office. Now. In Edward's opulent office, Nolan stood before the desk, hands clasped behind his back. The old man hadn't spoken since they arrived, just poured 2 glasses of scotch and stared out the window. You were always the smarter one, Edward finally said. Too smart for your own good, just like your mother. Is that why you never trusted me? Nolan asked evenly. Why you always favored Colin? Colin was predictable safe. You dash, Edward laughed bitterly. I could never control you. And now, he opened a folder. Ownership papers. I was going to give them to Colin tonight after his announcement. Nolan scanned the papers quickly. Let me guess, I was to be bought out. Pushed aside. You were always meant to be the backup plan, Edward admitted. The safety net in case Colin failed. Nolan set the papers back on the desk. And now, Edward downed his scotch. Now you've destroyed your brother's career, exposed company secrets to the SEC, and torn this family apart. Congratulations, son, you've won. This isn't about winning, Nolan said, turning to leave. This is about justice. Justice? Edward called after him. Is that what you call revenge? You taught us business is war, father. Nolan paused at the door. I'm just better at it than Colin. He left to a storm of messages. From Omar. SEC has frozen company assets. Colin's access revoked. From Kayla. Tessa's having a breakdown. She's threatening to go to the press. From Marissa. Board emergency meeting tomorrow. They want you to take control. Nolan deleted them all. In his office, he pulled up the offshore account records. The real money, the untraceable millions he'd hidden away remained safe and secure. Let the SEC investigate. They'd find nothing but what he wanted them to find. He began typing to the board. In light of recent events, I am prepared to assume full control of operations. The night stretched before him, full of possibilities. Let them call him cruel, calculating, ruthless. He'd rather be feared than loved. After all, he was his father's son. Victor Ames paced Colin Durham's temporary office, a converted hotel suite that smelled of desperation and stale coffee. His expensive suit couldn't hide the predatory grace of a man who solved problems permanently. You're telling me, Victor said, tapping a thick folder against his palm, that your brother orchestrated this entire situation, the SEC investigation, the scandal, everything? Colin slumped in his chair, his usually immaculate appearance frayed. Nolan's always been calculating. But this, he gestured at the papers scattered across the desk. This is different. He's trying to destroy me. He's succeeding. Victor dropped the folder. The evidence linking you to financial misconduct is impeccable too, impeccable. Meaning your brother planted it. Victor leaned against the desk. Problem is, proving that would implicate him in fraud, which would tank the company's stock even further. Colin ran a hand through his hair. Then what do you suggest? We have something better. Victor produced a USB drive. Your brother's not as clever as he thinks. My team found traces of his original sabotage system glitches, corrupted files. With this, we can prove he deliberately damaged company assets. Hope flickered and faded. The press would crucify us. Brothers destroy company in a personal vendetta. Stock would plummet. Unless we time it right. Victor's smile showed too many teeth. Release it during a major market upswing, when investors are confident. Position it as you discovering and stopping corporate espionage. Before Colin could respond, his laptop chimed with an alert. His face darkened. Nolan just leaked documents suggesting I have illegal offshore accounts. Do you? Of course not. Colin slammed his fist on the desk. He set up those accounts years ago. I found proof, but using it would prove I accessed his private files without authorization. Exactly, Victor said. Your brother plays chess while others play checkers. A knock at the door. Tessa entered, designer clothes hanging looser than usual, dark circles under her eyes. I just got served with divorce papers, she said, voice trembling. Nolan's demanding I forfeit all assets. He's claiming I violated the prenup. Let me handle this. Colin moved to embrace her, but she stepped back. Handle it like you handled the SEC? Her voice broke. My accounts are frozen. My cards are canceled. I can't access my own money. That's what Nolan does, Colin spat. He doesn't just defeat enemies, he obliterates them. Victor watched, clinical as ever. Mrs. Reeves dash. It's still Mrs. Reeves, Tessa snapped. Despite what Colin promised. Your husband's aggression might help us, Victor continued smoothly. We can position his moves as vindictive abuse of power. You don't know Nolan, Tessa whispered. He'll have anticipated that. He anticipates everything. As if on cue, Colin's laptop chimed again. He went pale. Nolan just donated $50 million to children's charities in my name using funds from those offshore accounts he claims I control. Victor paused, admiring the elegance. That's brilliant. He's made you either a philanthropist or a fraud. Deny the donation, you look heartless. Acknowledge it, you admit to the accounts. Tessa sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I should never have listened to you, Colin. We should have just what? Colin rounded on her. Stayed in our lanes? Played our roles? Let Nolan treat us like pawns? He was my husband, Tessa shouted. He may have been distant obsessed with work, but he never deliberately hurt me. Not until you got involved with his brother, Victor finished quietly. Silence broken only by Tessa's quiet sobs. Victor checked his phone. We have another problem. My sources say Nolan's been meeting with Lauren Kincaid, former prosecutor, now head of the SEC's Enforcement Division. He showed them a surveillance photo of Nolan leaving a restaurant with an elegant woman. They had dinner last night, 4 hours of conversation. Is he turning himself in? Colin asked, hopeful. More likely cutting a deal, Victor said. Offering evidence against you in exchange for immunity. Tessa stood abruptly. I need air. I can't handle this right now. They watched her leave, her normally confident stride reduced to an unsteady shuffle. She's a liability, Victor said once the door closed. She knows too much. She's also my fiancée, Colin growled. Your brother's wife, Victor corrected. Right now, she's one conversation with the SEC away from ending this for both of you. Colin's phone buzzed again. His face contorted. Nolan just called an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. Topic: leadership transition. He hurled the phone across the room. He's making his final move. Not final, Victor said, retrieving the phone. We still have our evidence. Will it be enough? Against a normal opponent, yes. Victor Saturday, but your brother is different. He plays to annihilate. He didn't just expose the relationship. He did it publicly. He didn't just freeze Tessa's accounts. He's stripping her of everything. He didn't just report you to the SEC. He's systematically destroying your reputation. So what do? Victor's smile returned cold, calculating. We stop playing his game. No more corporate maneuvering. No more legal battles. We hit him where he least expects it. How? His strength is his mind. His plans within plans. Victor leaned forward. What happens to a strategist when his carefully constructed world starts unraveling when randomness enters the equation? Understanding dawned. You want to go outside the law. I want to introduce chaos into his ordered universe. Victor pulled out a burner phone. I know people who specialize in that kind of disruption. It could backfire, Colin warned. Make things worse. Worse than this. Victor gestured at the room. Worse than losing everything. Colin stared at the burner, then nodded. Do it. Whatever it takes. An assistant cracked the door. Mr. Durham, Nolan just released another statement. He's returning all executive bonuses from the past 6 years. Says it's part of a new transparency initiative. Colin closed his hand around the burner. Make the calls. It's time my brother learned he's not the only one who can play rough. Victor nodded, already dialing. In his experience, men like Nolan Reeves had one critical weakness. They never expected their targets to abandon the rules completely. The chess game was over. Now it was war. Edward Durham's hands shook as he signed the retirement papers, each stroke of the pen marking the end of an era. Board members watched in tense silence as he pushed the documents across the table. As my final act as chairman, Edward said, voice carrying across the boardroom, I appoint Nolan Reeves as interim CEO, effective immediately. The proclamation hit Colin like a physical blow. He half rose, face contorted. Father, you can't sit down, Colin. Edward's command cracked like a whip. I've made my decision. Nolan stood, buttoning his jacket. Thank you, Father. I accept the position and all its responsibilities. This is insanity, Colin sputtered. He's under investigation. No, brother, Nolan said smoothly. You're under investigation. The SEC has found no evidence linking me to financial misconduct. Marissa Goodwin cleared her throat. If I may, the trading division's numbers support Nolan's appointment. Under his oversight, our risk metrics have improved significantly. Risk metrics? Colin laughed bitterly. He sabotaged our systems. Victor, show them. Mr. Durham, Victor interjected, expression carefully neutral. Perhaps this isn't the best time. Please, Nolan said lightly. Share whatever evidence Mr. Ames has gathered. I'm sure the board would be fascinated. Colin subsided, recognizing the trap. Any evidence against Nolan would implicate Colin in corporate espionage. If there are no other objections, Nolan continued, I'd like to outline my plan for the company's future. As Nolan commanded the room, Tessa slipped out quietly. She found herself in the empty break room, hands trembling as she poured coffee. Rough morning, Marissa asked from the doorway. I don't need your judgment, Tessa snapped. Good, Marissa said, stepping in. I'm not offering any. I'm offering a warning. Nolan's not done yet. What more can he take? He's frozen my accounts, initiated divorce, and now he controls the company that holds my family trust. And as CEO, Marissa finished, He has discretionary power over disbursements. Did you read the fine print on your inheritance? Tessa's cup clattered to the counter. He wouldn't dare. The Nolan you knew wouldn't, Marissa said. But the Nolan you and Colin created? He'll burn down the world to make you pay. Back in the boardroom, Nolan was wrapping up. By restructuring our trading algorithms and implementing stricter oversight, we can restore investor confidence within 8 months. And the SEC investigation? A director asked. A regrettable necessity, Nolan replied. One that will reveal certain individuals' misconduct while confirming the company's overall integrity. Colin stood abruptly. This is a witch hunt. He's manipulating everyone. Colin. Edward's quiet voice cut through. Enough. As the board filed out, Victor Ames approached Nolan. A word in private. Nolan gestured to his new office, formerly Edward's sanctuary. After you. Once inside, Victor's professional mask slipped. Impressive performance. Almost makes me forget how you orchestrated this entire situation. Careful, Mr. Ames. Nolan settled behind the desk. Accusations without evidence are just hot air. What if I told you I have evidence proof of your system's sabotage and manipulation of company data? I'd say using illegally obtained evidence is a dangerous game, Nolan said, voice hardening. One that might lead to uncomfortable questions about your own past activities. Victor's smile faltered. You've been investigating me. Did Colin really think I wouldn't? Nolan opened a folder. Panama City, 2019. Bangkok, 2021. Interesting pattern of solving problems, permanently. Those cases were never proven. Yet. Nolan closed the folder. Shall we discuss your immediate retirement from this situation? Before Victor could respond, Omar burst in. Sir, we have a problem. Someone's attacking our servers. Nolan's expression didn't change. Initiate Protocol 0. Sir, that will shut down all trading operations. Do it. Nolan turned back to Victor. You should go. Things are about to get complicated. In IT, chaos reigned. Screens flickered with error messages as technicians fought the breach. Report, Nolan commanded. Omar pulled up diagnostics. Sophisticated attack. They're not just trying to crash systems, they're trying to extract data. Colin's last desperate move, Nolan said, or rather Victor's. Sir. Omar looked up, confused. Colin lacks the resources for this. Victor has connections, especially in certain dark web circles. What do we do? Nolan smiled coldly. Spring the trap. Meanwhile, Tessa sat in her lawyer's office, staring at papers that would strip her of everything. Mrs. Reeves, the lawyer said gently. These terms are unusually punitive. He wants me broken, Tessa whispered. Not just divorce destroyed. There might be room to negotiate. No. She signed before tears could blur the text. Nolan doesn't negotiate. Not anymore. Across town, Colin paced while Victor delivered the news. The attack failed, Victor said. Worse, it was a trap. They were ready. Countermeasures in place. The contractors were traced. Can it be linked to us? Not directly, but Victor's phone buzzed. He went pale. Your brother just donated another $100 million to charity in your name from accounts that definitely don't exist. He's toying with us, Colin realized. Like a cat with mice. No, Victor said. He's forcing our hand. Making us desperate, waiting for a mistake. Colin's phone rang. Edward. Hands shaking, he answered. Come to the house, Edward said, sounding tired. We need to talk. In Nolan's new office, Marissa delivered an update. Colin's heading to your father's house. Victor made 3 calls to known associates. And Tessa signed the papers. Nolan nodded, reviewing a tablet. And our other project? Complete, Marissa said. Alana Pierce has everything she needs for the expose. The evidence painting Colin as the mastermind behind the offshore accounts is irrefutable. Excellent. Nolan set down the tablet. Now we wait. For what? For the moment they realize there's no way out. Nolan turned to the window. For them to understand that everything the SEC probe, the system breach, even their counterattacks was part of my plan. His reflection showed no emotion. Then, he said softly, I take everything they have left. Everything they are. The pieces were in place. The trap was set. Let them plot, scheme, and rage against the inevitable. Nolan Reeves had transcended revenge. This was justice cold and absolute. The end of Act 2 approached. But Nolan's war was far from over. The real pain was yet to come. Nolan Reeves stood before a sea of reporters, his composure unshakable as camera flashes punctuated the tense atmosphere of the emergency press conference. Yes, offshore accounts exist, he acknowledged, voice steady and measured. They were established as a contingency during market volatility. Their purpose was to protect our investors' interests, nothing more. Mr. Reeves, a reporter called out. Sources suggest these accounts contain millions in untraceable funds. How do you respond? I respond with transparency. Nolan gestured to the screens behind him, displaying complex financial charts. These accounts are now fully disclosed in our public filings. Their existence protected the company during turbulent times. At the back, Alana Pierce scribbled notes furiously. Her phone buzzed with messages from her editor, demanding updates on her investigation. Mr. Reeves, Alana stood. Isn't it true those accounts were accessed regularly during your brother's tenure as co-executive? Nolan's pause was perfectly calculated. I believe the SEC investigation will address questions of account access and authorization. The press conference continued, but Alana slipped out, mind racing. In her office, she spread evidence across her desk: bank statements, internal memos, witness testimonies. The story seemed clear: Colin Durham, the corrupt executive embezzling funds through secret accounts. Too clear. Her phone rang an encrypted number she recognized. Talk to me. The Reeves case, a gruff voice said. You're being played. By whom? Both brothers. But Nolan, he's the architect. The accounts? His creation. Colin's just the proxy. Alana's fingers flew across her keyboard, cross-referencing dates. I need proof. Check the original account creation dates. Then check Nolan Reeves's travel records about 6 years ago. Pay attention to the Cayman Islands trips. In his new office, Nolan reviewed security footage of the press conference. Omar Patel entered, tablet in hand. Sir, Alana Pierce has been making calls accessing old records. Good, Nolan said without looking up. Let her dig. But if she traces the accounts back to Dash, she won't find anything I don't want her to find. Nolan finally met his assistant's worried gaze. Trust the plan, Omar. Across town, Edward Durham sat in his study, a glass of scotch untouched before him. The door opened, admitting Colin. You wanted to see me, father? Sit down. Edward pushed a folder across his desk. Read it. Colin opened the folder, his face darkening as he read. These signatures, these authorizations, this is Nolan's work. Edward nodded. From years ago, he created the offshore structure long before you knew it existed. Then why am I under investigation? Why aren't you showing this to the SEC? Edward laughed bitterly. Because your brother made sure any revelation of his involvement would implicate the entire company. He's positioned himself as the savior, the reformer cleaning up your mess. He's thought of everything, Colin whispered. No. Edward crossed to his safe. He thought of almost everything. The safe opened to reveal stacks of documents, old contracts, bank statements, photographs. I've kept records, Colin, of everything, including Nolan's early operations. Father, Colin's eyes widened as he read. This could destroy him. It could destroy all of us, Edward corrected. Which is exactly why your brother never thought I'd use it. Meanwhile, Tessa sat in her modest apartment, surrounded by moving boxes. Her phone displayed a text from Lauren Kincaid. Passport ready. Tickets booked. Last chance. Tessa's fingers hovered over the reply button when someone knocked. Through the peephole, she saw Victor Ames. Mrs. Reeves, he called softly. We need to talk. She opened the door cautiously. What do you want? To offer you a way out. Victor held up a USB drive. Evidence, real evidence against Nolan. Why would you give this to me? Because you're the only one he might still have a blind spot for. Victor stepped inside. The only one who might get close enough to use it. Back at the office, Nolan received an urgent message from Marissa Goodwin. Colin's leaving your father's house. He has documents. Nolan's response was immediate. Initiate containment protocol. Within minutes, security teams mobilized. Traffic cameras tracked Colin's car through the city. But something was wrong. Colin was smiling as he drove. Nolan's phone rang. Alana Pierce. Mr. Reeves. Her voice held an edge of triumph. Care to comment on your trips to the Cayman Islands in 2019? Research for a book I never wrote, Nolan replied smoothly. Fascinating banking history there. And the meetings with offshore trustees? Ms. Pierce, Nolan's voice hardened. Be very careful about your next story. Accusations without proof can end careers. Oh, I have proof, Alana said, confidence unshaken. Would you like to know what your father just gave your brother? Nolan's hand tightened on the phone. My father is a tired old man with a failing memory. Your father is a meticulous record keeper, Alana said. And those records tell a very different story about those offshore accounts. The pieces clicked into place. Nolan ended the call and immediately dialed Omar. How quickly can you implement Operation Blackout? The nuclear option? Omar hesitated. It would take under an hour to dash. You have 25 minutes. In the server room, Omar stared at his screen, fingers poised over the keyboard. Operation Blackout would wipe everything records, backups, the entire digital infrastructure of the company. Sir, he typed, this will destroy billions in assets. Nolan's response was immediate, better destroyed than in their hands. Across the city, various players moved pieces into position. Colin rushed to meet Alana, documents in hand. Victor escorted Tessa to a private airfield, the USB drive secure in her purse. Edward Durham made copies of his records, sending them to multiple secure locations. Marissa accessed encrypted files, preparing for digital warfare. And Nolan Reeves sat in his office, watching it all unfold across multiple screens. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Check tomorrow's headline. Durham Dynasty's dark secret, the truth behind the offshore web. Your move. Nolan opened his drawer, removing the black notebook. Inside, contingency plans, weighted plans within plans, each more devastating than the last. Let them think they had won. Let them celebrate their momentary advantage. They had no idea what true ruthlessness looked like. The real war was about to begin. Nolan surveyed the wreckage of what had once been Colin's office, now stripped bare of personal effects. His brother's nameplate lay discarded in the trash, along with framed accolades and family photos. The trading division reports are ready, Omar announced from the doorway. We've implemented your new oversight protocols. And the employees? Those loyal to Colin have been terminated. Security escorted the last group out this morning. Nolan nodded, running his hand along the empty desk. Have everything moved to storage. This space becomes our new compliance department. In the outer office, staff scurried to avoid his gaze. Their fear was palpable, a natural response to watching former colleagues dismissed without mercy. Those who remained understood, survival meant absolute loyalty. Sir, Marissa intercepted him near the elevator. The board approved your transparency initiative. All executive bonuses will be returned and redistributed to employee pension funds. Make sure PR emphasizes the voluntary nature of the returns, Nolan replied. We're not admitting wrongdoing, we're demonstrating leadership. And those who refuse to return their bonuses? Nolan's smile carried no warmth. Remind them about the ongoing SEC investigation and how unfortunate it would be if certain documents came to light. In the lobby, he passed the Financial Journal's latest headline. Harbogate Capital rises from ashes, new CEO implements sweeping reforms. The article praised his decisive leadership while diplomatically avoiding mention of Colin's disgrace. His phone buzzed a message from his father's nurse. Mr. Durham requests a visit. His condition has stabilized. Nolan found Edward in the hospital's private wing, looking frail against white sheets. Medical equipment beeped steadily. Come to gloat. Edward's voice was weak but clear. I came to check on your recovery, Nolan said, remaining standing. The company needs a smooth transition. Smooth. Edward laughed, then coughed. You destroyed your brother, exiled your wife, and seized control through pressure. I'd hate to see your definition of rough. You taught us business is war, Nolan replied, voice hardening. I proved the better general. I taught you to protect the family name. Edward struggled to sit up. Instead, you've torn us apart. No, father. You did that when you chose Colin over me at birth, when you dismissed my work while praising his empty charm, when you planned to hand him everything I built. And now, Edward gestured weakly. What's left of your victory? A broken old man, a brother in exile, a wife who hates you. Now I have what I earned. Nolan checked his watch. The board meeting starts in less than an hour. We're voting on your retirement package. Nolan, Edward said as his son reached the door. In that drawer, there's something you should see. Nolan opened the bedside drawer and found a worn photograph, two boys' arms around each other, matching grins. Remember who you were, Edward whispered, before ambition poisoned everything. Nolan stared at the photo for a long moment. then placed it back in the drawer. That boy died the day his brother betrayed him. Back at the office, he found Tessa waiting in his private conference room. She wore simple clothes now. Her designer wardrobe had been sold to pay living expenses. "The charity assignment," she said without preamble. "I'll take it." Nolan studied her shadows under her eyes, a slight tremor in her hands. "Why?" "Because I need purpose," she said, meeting his gaze. "Because I need to rebuild something from these ruins. You understand the terms. Minimum 5-year commitment. Regular audits. One mistake and you'll destroy what little I have left." Tessa's laugh held no humor. "Yes, Nolan. I understand how you operate now." He slid a contract across the table. "Sign it, Tessa, and don't mistake this for forgiveness." "Trust me," she said, grabbing the pen. "I won't." Later, reviewing security footage, Nolan watched Tessa exit the building. His phone buzzed messages from Omar. Alana requests follow-up interview company reforms. From Marissa, Colin spotted in Singapore attempting to access Asian markets. And from Victor, considering your job offer terms negotiable. Nolan deleted them all and focused on the quarterly projections. Under his leadership, the company had not merely survived, it had thrived. Stock prices soared as investors responded to his transparent policies and ethical initiatives. "Mr. Reeves," his assistant said over the intercom, "your 4 o'clock is here." The Omar Patel Foundation board members. Nolan straightened his tie and entered the boardroom. These people had witnessed his ruthless rise, seen him destroy those who opposed him. Now they watched him channel that same determination into rebuilding. "Today," he began, voice carrying authority earned through combat, "we honor a man who understood that true power lies not in destruction, but in creation." Outside his window, the city stretched endlessly, filled with opportunities and threats. Let them whisper about his methods, his ruthlessness. History wrote itself in bold strokes, and Nolan Reeves intended to paint his legacy in colors that would never fade. The empire he had reclaimed was just the beginning. The marble headstone bore Omar Patel's name in stark relief against the morning light. Nolan stood before it, his customary mask of control slipping slightly. "You should have seen the foundation launch," he said quietly. "Your vision for supporting young technologists sits becoming reality." A twig snapped behind him. Still visiting him? Marissa approached, laying flowers beside Nolan's wreath. "He was loyal," Nolan said, an edge in his voice. "Unlike others." "Is that why you're here, loyalty?" "I'm here because actions have consequences," Nolan replied, straightening his tie. Omar understood that. He chose his path, knowing the risks. "And the guilt doesn't eat at you?" "Guilt implies regret." Nolan turned to face her. "I regret nothing." At her charity office, Tessa sorted through applications from struggling families. Her designer lifestyle had been replaced by practical business attire. Her mansion traded for a small apartment. "Ms. Reeves?" Her assistant poked her head in. "The budget report for the children's program needs your signature." "Call me Tessa," she said. "That other life is over." "Not according to the press." The assistant placed a newspaper on her desk. The headline read, "Harbogate's former CEO's wife leads charitable revolution." "Nolan's doing," Tessa muttered. "Making sure everyone knows he reformed me." "Is that so bad?" "The work you're doing here, the work is genuine," Tessa said, hands clenched. "But make no mistake, this is my prison. A gilded cage built by a husband I betrayed." In her downtown office, Alana Pierce reviewed notes for her upcoming book. The story of the Durham dynasty had captivated readers, earning accolades and threats. Her phone rang. Nolan's private number. "Ms. Pierce," his controlled voice carried quiet power. "I understand you're planning a follow-up piece. The public wants to know how I transformed the company." "Your journey from revenge to redemption," she said, keeping her tone professional. "Let's be clear," Nolan cut in. "This isn't a redemption story. It's a lesson in consequences." "And what lesson would that be?" "That mercy is a luxury reserved for the weak." "A beat. You've been fair in your coverage. I trust you'll continue." The threat lay unspoken, but clear. Across the city, Kayla Brooks sat in her therapist's office, unraveling the weight of her actions. "I betrayed both brothers," she admitted. "Played both sides, thinking I could control the outcome. And now, I watched Nolan succeed, knowing I helped create this version of him, the man who turns betrayal into strength." Her phone buzzed. "Nolan, dinner tonight." We should discuss your role in the company's future. Her hands shook as she typed acceptance. The predator had become protector, but his claws remained sharp. Meanwhile, Colin's latest message to his father returned undelivered. From his exile in Singapore, he watched his brother's empire grow through news feeds and market reports. Your brother's latest acquisition, his assistant noted, just made headlines. Harbogate now controls nearly a third of targeted Asian markets. He's not stopping, Colin murmured. The company isn't enough. He wants global dominance. Sir, the assistant hesitated. There's something else, Mr. Reeves has been buying properties here in Singapore. Colin's blood ran cold. Even here, Nolan's shadow lengthened. Back in New York, Nolan presided over a board meeting, his authority absolute. The merger proceeds as planned, he said. Those who opposed it have been persuaded to reconsider. Board members nodded nervously, remembering how previous opposition had ended in professional silence. There's one other matter, Nolan continued. The Omar Patel Foundation's latest initiative. We're expanding into international markets. The costs, a board member began, are irrelevant, Nolan said. Omar's legacy will reach globally. I made a promise. After the meeting, Marissa lingered. You've changed the company's entire culture, fear mixed with admiration. It's quite the achievement. Fear ensures compliance, Nolan replied. Admiration ensures loyalty. And what ensures happiness? Nolan's laugh held no warmth. Happiness is for people who never had to fight for survival. His phone buzzed, Kayla confirming dinner. Their relationship had evolved from manipulation to something resembling trust, though Nolan never forgot her role in the past. Sir, Omar's replacement appeared with urgent news. We've traced more attempts to access the old accounts. The source is Singapore. Nolan didn't look up. Colin's getting desperate. Let him try. Should we block the attempts? No. Nolan smiled coldly. Let him think he's being clever. Every move draws him closer to total destruction. In his private office, Nolan reviewed the day's reports. Company stock had reached record highs. His reforms, though brutal, had created an unassailable corporate fortress. Tessa's charity work garnered positive press. Colin's exile removed the last real threat to his authority. Even his father's death had been turned to advantage, the funeral becoming a symbol of corporate renewal. A message from Alana. Final draft ready for review. Your remarkable transformation. Nolan deleted it. Transformation suggested change. He hadn't changed, he had evolved, shedding weaknesses like dead skin. The phone rang again. Nolan, Kayla said, concern in her voice. Are you sure about dinner? Today is the anniversary of Omar's sacrifice. Yes, Nolan said. All the more reason to discuss the future. He ended the call and turned to the window. Below, the city pulsed with life and opportunity. His empire grew daily, fed by the fear and respect he had cultivated. The past couldn't be changed, but it could be shaped into a weapon. Every betrayal, every loss, had forged him into something unstoppable. Let them write their stories of redemption. The truth was simpler. Power, once tasted, demanded more. And Nolan Reeves had developed an appetite. 1 year after reclaiming his company, Nolan sat in his expanded office suite, reviewing the empire he'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Quarterly reports showed record profits. His reformation initiatives had transformed Harbogate Capital into a beacon of corporate governance. The latest numbers, sir. His new assistant placed a tablet before him. We've exceeded projections by 42%. Nolan scanned the figures, noting how each division now operated. No trace remained of Colin's chaotic management style or the old guard's inefficiencies. His phone buzzed with a notification from Tessa's nonprofit. Women's Financial Education Program launches nationwide. He opened the attached report. Tessa had transformed her punishment into a genuine mission, helping women escape financial dependence. Her quarterly audits showed impeccable management. She learned the price of mistakes, Nolan said. Sir, Marissa entered without knocking, privilege earned through proven loyalty. The international expansion team needs your decision on the Singapore merger. Nolan's lips curved slightly. Has Colin made his move yet? As predicted, he's trying to block the merger through local connections. Perfect. Nolan pulled up a document. Release this to the Singapore authorities. Marissa scanned the file, eyes widening. This will wipe out his remaining assets. He chose to play in my territory, Nolan said, voice flat. Now he pays the price. That afternoon, Kayla entered, now comfortable as both confidant and partner. Travel arrangements confirmed. The board responds well to these private retreats. Fear and luxury, Nolan noted. A powerful combination. Speaking of power, Kayla placed a newspaper on his desk. Alana's latest article praised Harbogate's transformation under his leadership. She writes what we allow her to write, Nolan said dismissively. The truth would be less palatable. His computer chimed urgent. The Omar Patel Foundation had secured major funding from international tech giants, expanding its reach globally. Arrange a press conference, he told Kayla. Time to announce the foundation's expansion. At her modest nonprofit office, Tessa reviewed scholarship applications. A notification popped up. Nolan had doubled their funding. This is incredible, her assistant gasped. We can help so many more. Yes, Tessa cut in, voice tight. That's exactly what he wants everyone to think. Across the world, Colin stared at frozen accounts, his Singapore operations crumbling. A letter arrived, plain white envelope, expensive paper. Dear brother, consider this mercy. You still breathe. N. Colin's hands shook as he dialed a number he'd sworn never to use. Nolan, we need to talk. No, Colin. Nolan's voice carried across continents. We needed to talk years ago, before you chose betrayal. I'm sorry. The words cost Colin his remaining pride. Sorry is for children who break toys. Nolan's tone turned icy. You broke trust. Consequences are permanent. The line went dead. Back in New York, Nolan prepared for a family dinner, a calculated display of reconciliation. The guest list was precise. Tessa, representing redemption through submission. Kayla, proof that loyalty brought rewards. Even Colin would attend via video call, a reminder of the price of defiance. The press will be discreet, Marissa assured him. Just enough coverage to reinforce the narrative. Nolan adjusted his tie, studying his reflection. And the other initiative? The global economic reform proposal is ready for announcement, she said. He nodded, satisfied. The proposal would reshape international finance with Harbogate at its heart, power beyond mere corporate control. The dinner proceeded like a perfectly orchestrated ballet. Tessa discussed her charitable work, practiced humility, masking old wounds. Kayla managed conversations with professional grace, while Colin's video presence served as a silent warning. A toast, Nolan raised his glass. To family. The words carried layers of meaning. Family, once his weakness, had become his strength. Each person at the table had played a role in his rise, willingly or not. Later that night, alone in his office, Nolan reviewed his empire. Stock tickers reflected global markets responding to his will. Surveillance feeds displayed his influence reaching into every corner of the financial world. A message from Alana appeared, final book draft attached. Your story will inspire generations. Nolan smiled. Let them see inspiration. Let them think he'd found redemption. The truth was simpler. He had transcended conventional morality. Right and wrong meant nothing compared to power and its application. His phone buzzed one final time, an anonymous message. You've become what you hated. Nolan deleted it without hesitation. He hadn't become anything. He had evolved. Kayla found him there, silhouetted against the cityscape. Ready to leave? There's always more to do, he said. The company runs itself. The foundation thrives. Colin's neutralized. Tessa's contained. What more do you want? Nolan's smile held no warmth. This was never about want. It's about never being vulnerable again. Together they descended to his waiting car. Nolan Reeves had transcended revenge, business, and family ties. He had become something new, a force of nature, bound by no laws but those he chose to acknowledge. The future stretched before him, an endless field of opportunities for dominance. Let others write tales of redemption. His story was simpler, power, absolute, and unyielding. The game would continue. The empire would grow. And Nolan Reeves would remain what betrayal had forged him into: untouchable, unforgiving, unstoppable. Epilogue. Legacy of Power. 9 years later, the Financial Journal's headline blared across digital screens worldwide. Harbogate CEO Nolan Reeves named the most influential figure in global finance, a decade of dominance. In his expanded office suite atop the newly constructed Reeves Tower, Nolan reviewed the article with clinical detachment. At 53, hair grayed at the temples, time had only sharpened his edges and honed his instincts for power. The board approval came through. Kayla Reeves announced, entering his office. Their relationship had evolved over the decade. She now served as both wife and chief strategy officer, a calculated alliance that proved surprisingly durable. Singapore. Nolan didn't look up from his tablet. Complete acquisition, Kayla said. Colin's last holdout has fallen. He sent another letter, she added. Nolan's expression didn't change. Burn it. The past decade had seen Harbigate Capital transform into Reeves' global financial empire that influenced markets across 6 continents. Nolan's ethical initiatives had become industry standards, though insiders knew his reformation masked an iron grip on power. His phone buzzed Marissa Goodwin's number, now semi-retired but still his most trusted advisor. The Omar Patel Foundation's 20th anniversary gala, she reminded him. Press expects your appearance. The foundation had grown beyond its origins, funding technological innovation worldwide. Omar's sacrifice had built an empire of its own, though few remembered the true story behind its creation. Across town, Tessa Sheed, never legally changed her last name, presided over the Global Women's Financial Empowerment Institute. Her punishment had become her redemption, though she never forgot who held the purse strings. The latest audit report, her assistant said, placing a thick folder on her desk. Tessa nodded, knowing Nolan's accountants would scrutinize every penny. A decade of perfect compliance had earned her autonomy but never freedom. The Institute helped thousands of women escape financial dependence, an irony not lost on its founder. The Singapore News, her assistant asked. Should we reach out to Mr. Durham? Colin made his choices, Tessa said sharply. Their brief relationship had cost them everything: her marriage, his future. In a modest Singapore apartment, Colin Durham watched his last venture crumble. A decade of rebuilding erased by his brother's relentless expansion. His phone contained years of unsent messages. Brother, we were family once. Was it worth the cost? None sent. None answered. Nolan's victory had been total. Alana Pierce's latest manuscript, The Reeves Dynasty, Power and Principle in Modern Finance, sat half-finished on her laptop. A decade had revealed new layers to Nolan's evolution, though the full story remained buried in silence and NDAs. At the Omar Patel Foundation headquarters, Nolan's presence commanded the room. The annual scholarship ceremony had become a major event in the tech world. Mr. Reeves, a young programmer said, clutching her award, "Your foundation changed my life." Nolan nodded, his public mask perfectly calibrated. Let them see the benevolent patron, the reformed titan. Only his inner circle knew the steel beneath the philanthropy. Back in his office, Nolan reviewed the empire's latest expansion. Reeves Global now influenced about 40% of critical financial flows. The world's largest technological education network. Strategic interests in emerging AI. Political influence across major economies. Sir, his assistant interrupted, Victor Ames's daughter is requesting an interview for her thesis on corporate ethics. Nolan's lips curved slightly. Victor had disappeared years ago, another casualty of choosing the wrong side. Decline politely. Kayla studied him from the window. The board suggests softening your image. A decade of fear-based respect - fear works. Nolan cut her off. Fear built this empire. Fear keeps it running. Their marriage worked because she understood him, because she never forgot the lesson of Colin and Tessa. Betrayal earned destruction, loyalty bought power. The Omar Patel Foundation Gala drew the global elite. Nolan's speech was perfectly crafted. A decade ago, we made a promise to honor innovation, to reward loyalty, to build something lasting. The crowd applauded, not hearing the steel beneath his words. Later that night, reviewing global operations, Nolan received an alert: Colin had finally left Singapore. Destination unknown, Kayla said. Track him. No need, Nolan replied. He's irrelevant now. The decade had proven him right. Power wasn't about revenge. It was about control, total, absolute, unquestioned. Reeves Global Policy Institute shaped financial regulations. Reeves Tech Ventures steered the future of digital innovation. Reeves Global Security protected interests across continents. Each division operated within the law layers of perfectly legal control. Tessa's institute received its annual review. Her work genuinely helped thousands, each success reinforcing Nolan's narrative of redemption through structure and compliance. She transformed punishment into purpose, never forgetting who held power. Markets that opposed Reeves' global stumbled. Politicians who challenged his initiatives faced sudden headwinds. Journalists who dug too deeply found careers stalling, yet no thread ever led back to Nolan. He had learned to weaponize legality itself. The Reeves Tower crowned the skyline, a monument to control. Inside, Nolan reviewed his legacy. Company, foundation, policy, technology, each sphere aligned. Yet power brought no satisfaction, only hunger for more. Kayla managed the image. Nolan consolidated reality. Scholarships created loyal networks. Research grants steered industries. Social causes provided perfect cover for strategy. The Foundation's global programs forged allies. Innovation prizes redirected entire sectors. Omar's name had become the banner of Nolan's controlled revolution. Tessa's institute taught financial independence, while its founder remained bound by golden chains. Her success measured her submission. She never forgot. Colin's disappearance marked the end of an era, the last trace of Nolan's past erased. Reeves' global security monitored it all: market movements, political shifts, personal threats. Each potential problem eliminated legally, efficiently, completely. Nolan's philosophy had crystallized. Trust was weakness, loyalty required structure, and power demanded perfect control. His empire stood as testament. Kayla understood her role: partner in power, manager of empire, guardian of legacy. The tower rose above the city, its shadow touching every district. Financial circles bowed to its influence. Political circles orbited its gravity. Social spheres reshaped by its will. Nolan Reeves had transcended mere victory. He had become a force reshaping reality to his vision. The future stretched endless before him, new territories to influence, new systems to master. This was his legacy, not redemption, not forgiveness, but control. He stood at the top of his tower, surveying his domain. The betrayed husband had become the corporate emperor, the wounded man, an unstoppable force. The future belonged to him, not through hate, but through perfect, absolute power. And the game would never end. That's the end of the story. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.